Hi, Year 8, another exciting lesson in lockdown, and I thought I'd give you a brief introduction to food chains and food webs in my back garden. Firstly, the back garden is mainly green and it's full of plants. Now, we don't really think of grass as lots of plants, but it is lots and lots and lots and lots and lots of plants, and there are thousands of them in this little frame I'm taking now. That's the swing seat, and further along in the back field behind us, if you eat those sorts of things, then they're part of your food chain too. There's lovely animals there with the babies, and we've got birds in the trees up there, some jackdaws which seem to be doing lots of damage at the moment. We've got some apple trees in the garden, and we think, well, what's food chains all about? It's all about energy, where it comes from and where it goes. So food chains all begin with the ultimate source of energy, which I'm going to shade you from, hopefully. So behind my hand, we have the ultimate source of all of our energy. Everything that makes you and me work comes from that shining ball of gas in the sky, and all the hard work that the green stuff does to trap the energy from the sun via photosynthesis. So it traps the energy, uses it to drive photosynthesis to capture CO2 from the air and taking in water from the soil to produce lovely, lovely sugars. Now, we don't eat this. It's not very tasty, but these contain all of the energy that ultimately is transferred to you and makes your body what it is. Seems a bit weird. So how does it work? Well, all of the sugars that the plants produce for us are consumed by various organisms. Now, the reason you don't see many organisms eating all the green stuff is because there are far fewer of those around usually than there are the producers, the primary producers, the plants. So we could go hunting for a few. Not sure I'm going to find many. Gooseberry bush. There's a gooseberry bush. It's got gooseberries in it. It's a lovely time of year. Nothing eating the gooseberries or the gooseberry bush at the moment, but if there was something I could find, we would call it a primary consumer. We can see if we can find any evidence of primary consumers in action in the garden. Maybe you could go out into your garden and find some primary consumers in action. Oh, there's a little bit of evidence of a primary consumer in action. A hole in a leaf. That has been eaten by something, probably a beetle. Caterpillars are starting to hatch out now, so we should see a few of those, but I haven't found any in my garden to make an example to you of. So primary consumers eat the leaves of plants. Oh, there's a few more evidence spots here. This is our chard, which we love. Oh look, primary consumer has been at it there and there. No, can't catch any of them in action. Primary consumers, anyway, they are always herbivores. They only eat plants, things like rabbits, slugs and snails. There's loads of slugs and snails around here when I don't want them. Never any when I want to show them to you guys. They hide. Oh, there's a beetle. There he goes. Ooh, a beetle. He's happily hiding under the pot just for the moment. There's another pot. Ah, there is a primary consumer. One I don't like. That's a slug. He will come out at night when it's nice and moist, chew up my chard. I won't kill it because I'm not that kind of guy. The beans are definitely on the food list of a primary consumer. So if those are the producers, the green things, primary consumers eat the producers. Oh, look at that, that's a rhubarb coming into flower. Shouldn't really let it get that far. What eats the primary consumers? Well, the secondary consumers. Sheep are primary consumers, we are secondary consumers if we eat the sheep. And then if anything comes and gets us, then they would be the tertiary consumers, probably the top predator. But fortunately for us, we don't have any bears living in my back garden, or lions or tigers or anything that's going to cause me too much grief. So the idea is that the energy from the sun is absorbed by the plants during photosynthesis, and that produces all of the sugars that are the food for the whole food chain. The food chain is the passing of that energy stored in the sugars between trophic levels. This is trophic level 1, the producer. Trophic level 2, the primary consumer, which produces the little holes in my leaves. And then trophic level 3 is whatever eats the primary consumer. If we're talking about the sheep being trophic level 2, the herbivores eating the grass, then we could be trophic level 3. And if we go above trophic level 3, things that eat us would be the top predator. They would be carnivorous, and I haven't got any of those in the garden. The other thing that we might have in our gardens is one of these. I've got two, a compost. And if we take the lid off, we can see lots and lots and lots of little flies living in there, fruit flies and all sorts of lovelies. And they're there as part of the decomposition process of all of the organic waste that we put into the compost bin. What's that all about then? Well, everything that we've been talking about, the producers, the consumers, will at some point die, and when they do, the decomposer chain comes into action. It's another feeding chain, but it's the feeding chain based on dead material. So these are grass clippings on the top. Well, it's getting warmer and warmer as I go in underneath the surface, and that's because the bacteria and the fungi that are the primary decomposers are the things that are in there breaking down the grass and respiring, and as they respire they release a lot of heat energy. And what I've got going on here, oh, it's getting very warm down here. It's much warmer in the heap than it was on top of the heap, and we can see where we've started to get the green organic matter started to get decomposed. It's been broken down, digested, and all the good nutrients starting to be released out of that material back into the environment. And let's just see what's in here. Maybe, just maybe, we can capture some animals decomposing stuff for us. Not there. Let's go a bit deeper. And what have we got in here? Oh yeah, look, we got some little wigglers. So we got worms, detritivores there, breaking down dead organic material into smaller and smaller chunks. We got a little millipede there. Oh, there's a proper compost worm there. There we are, look at that, stripy little fella. Nice. All doing that really important job to avoid us being up to our necks in dead stuff and returning it to the environment where it belongs. So that's a little bit about food chains, primary producers, primary consumers, secondary consumers, tertiary consumers, and what happens to everything when it dies and gets decomposed. It's all about energy cycling. The energy is passed from one organism to another as it feeds on the trophic level below it. Dr. Clifford, in his garden, signing out. Have a good week.